Welcome, everybody, to episode 2 of the Masters Muscle podcast. If you enjoyed last week, this one's going to be that much better. As always, I am joined by Mr. Masters Muscle, 8 times Masters champion, Vinny Galanti.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks for putting this together. And this is, I was excited to have Jose on tonight. He's a highly decorated 212 competitor, top 5 in the Arnold Classic. I think he got 1 first and the rest top 5 and the top 5 in the Olympia. And, we've known each other a long, long time. And his story is so different compared to what the athletes are like today, with people rushing to get a pro card and have those 4 letters after their name. And, I hate to say it, sometimes it's their careers are over as soon as they get a pro card. And, it took me 16 years to turn pro, and Jose turned his pro card down quite a number of times. And so let's dive into that, Jose. Jose, welcome to the Masters Muscle podcast. And let's start off by, how many times did you turn your pro card down?
Well, thanks for having me, Vinny.
Why?
Listen, it's funny that you said it took you 16 years, because I too competed 16 years as an amateur before I did my first pro show.
Cool.
So that's unique. But what was the question? Why did I?
Not why, but first of all, how many times did you turn down your pro card and why?
So I turned it down 3 times and I took it the 4th time, which ironically, by today's standards, would have been 8 pro cards, because I won the universe twice. I won my weight class in 3 nationals, different nationals. And I won my weight class at 3 different USAs. And back then,
right,
you could only turn pro at the USAs if you won the overall. And today, you get a pro card by winning your class at the USAs. So, that would have been 8. But why I did that was because I was not ready. I was young. I won my first USAs at 25 years old, 152 pounds. And at the time, as we know, Ronnie Coleman and Jay Cutler were battling at the Olympia. I mean, they were 100 pounds bigger than me, over 100 pounds.
Right.
So it's crazy. I would have had to strap a bantamweight to me to compete with those guys, And it just wasn't my goal. I was a kid. I was looking up to my brother and guys like you. And that was not my goal, to be a pro bodybuilder. I just kind of wanted to compete and be competitive and be the best at my little niche, which was at the time a lightweight. And I wanted to be the best natural lightweight in the world. And that's why I did the universe 7 years in a row, because they used to send the winners as a team to the world championships. And that's why it was called the Team Universe.
Yeah, at the time.
Yep. And at the time, it was a tougher show than nationals at the lighter weight divisions, because you had Tricky Jackson, Chris Faldo, Derek Farnsworth, myself, and it was nuts.
Yep.
Believe it or not, I won both the USAs and the nationals before I was able to win the universe. That's how difficult it was, which is crazy to think of.
And how many universes did you enter?
7.
And how many world? So when you went from that and you got on the team, how many times were you on the team?
Unfortunately, I won it twice. In the first year, in 2004, we were scheduled to go to Moscow, and that's where the world championships were. But there was all that terrorist stuff happened, that school building, the school children get killed.
Right.
There was a plane that got shot down. So we got a letter about a month before the show that said, we cannot ensure your safety, so we're not sending a team.
Wow.
So I went back the following year and I won again. And we went to Shanghai, China.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was my first real exposure to international competition. And Dennis Wolf won the overall that year. it was a real slap in the face to me.
Interesting.
Like a wake-up call, because I still thought everyone was natural. I'm like, yeah, this is awesome. We're gonna go there. I'm gonna have a real good shot.
Right.
Everyone's natural. Then I show up and I see Dennis Wolf, 250 pounds. He was gigantic. I'm like, wow, that's a crazy looking natural. And then I just started realizing no one in my class was natural. They were freaks. And it really kind of changed my vision. So I moved up to middleweight because I got smoked. I placed 8th at the Worlds that year. Do you remember the guy named Baitola Abbaspor? He was a Iranian 212 guy.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
was
yeah.
Awesome. He
Crazy Christmas tree.
Yeah, he had crazy legs, and he passed away a few years ago.
Okay.
But he was like Hadi Chupan before Hadi. He was crazy. The reception that he would get when he would go back there. I think there were over 1 million people at his funeral.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Yeah, if you Google it, look at pictures. It was just a sea of people carrying posters of him and stuff. It was pretty awesome. Anyway, I competed against him in the World Championships in 2005. And back then, I had already been in Flex Magazine, Muscle and Fitness, Ironman. So I would get there backstage, and all these guys are like, hey, can I take a picture with you? And, they're all real friendly and fans. And I'm like, wow, this is cool. And Baitola looked at me. He didn't even speak a word of English. He just looked at me and pointed and did this. It's between me and you. That's what he said. And unfortunately, it wasn't. He placed 3rd, and I placed 8th. But I do have a picture of us together on stage in a call out, which was really cool. And then, of course, years later, he started competing in the IFBB, and I got to compete against him in the Open in the 212s, which was awesome. Yeah, I got a lot of crazy stories like that of people I met when they were younger. And, and then years later, 10, 12, 15 years later, they would be on stage with me. It's pretty crazy.
It's funny. Like when I first heard your name, first I knew your brother, Tito.
Yeah.
Because so when I would do the nationals, I would set up photo shoots to go out to LA, and I go out there and I'd see Tito, and I'm like, I want to live this lifestyle. I want to live like Tito.
Yeah.
And he's like, and one day he goes, hey, you're going to compete against my brother one day. I'm like, who's your brother?
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
Growing up, he's 4 inches taller than me. He's this beautiful fitness model. That wasn't me. I was a rugged, short, stocky, just bull. I was a bull. And I was always bigger than him, huskier, but not put together quite as well as him. And it took me a long time to catch up and to, work on those deficiencies where if I were stretched out 4 inches taller, my physique would be very different.
Sure. But I think the two of you respectively captured the market that you were going after.
Oh,
you did well in the 212s and excellent. And he was on magazine covers and features. So you both had a great career on different spectrums.
Yeah, for sure. And he's
Jose, growing up, were you an athlete? Did you play ball or anything, football or anything growing up, or?
I played college football. I wrestled in college. I was really good in football. Like, again, if I was another 4 inches taller, my career might have been a very different because I was a real good running back. I played at Plymouth State. It was only a D3 school, but they were a powerhouse. It was a really good football. And I did well. My senior year, I rushed for almost 1,000 yards and 12 touchdowns.
Wow.
And
That's awesome.
Yeah, I had a great career in football. And I was too short. Nobody's looking for a 5'3" running back. And, even that was an experience that I can relay to people. My senior year in college football, I was like 5th on the depth chart. And I was the guy that just did show team running against the defense. and then someone get injured, and then another kid got injured, and then another kid fumbled. And all my teammates were telling the coach, like, just give Jose the ball. He can run. Trust me. And he's like, no, he's too small. You know, I wasn't small. I was my height, 5'3", 5'3.5", whatever. And I was 195 pounds. That's a big, little
guy.
You know? And and I could run. So as luck would have it, the coach looks over at me and is like, all right, go ahead, go in. Because we just had no more people to play. My very first carry went for a 60-yard touchdown.
Nice.
And my whole team was like behind me, pointing at the coach, like, we've been telling you, he's good, he's good. And from that game forward, I never came out. I carried the ball 20, 25 times a game.
Nice.
Every game. So it was an awesome story because I was not slated to play. I was not, but I never gave up, and I loved it, and I loved football. It was like a Rudy story, you know, where I actually got to play, and not only did I play, but I was an all-star. So it was, you know, out of all my accomplishments, that one like meant the most to me, bigger than an Arnold Classic win or anything like that. You know, playing and being an all-star on a college football team when I was never thought of to even be, you know, touch the field. So and I wrestled, but I was terrible at wrestling. I was just too big. You know, I would come down from 195 and then I'd go down to 177 because we had an All-American at 158. And I just fit into the 177. Now picture, you know, 20, 22-year-old kids that are 177. Most of them are 6'1", 6'2", and I was 5'3".
Yeah.
So I was
should probably been like 140.
Yeah, exactly. And they would wrap me up like boa constrictors, you know, put their legs around me. And so I was good on my feet, but once it hit the mat, I was not very good. But I did it anyway. It was fun.
What year was your first bodybuilding contest?
93. The year you won the USA's, right?
Yeah, I won the middleweight class the year Chris Cormier won the overall. I would have turned pro in 93 if the rules were different.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's crazy. People don't understand that. A lot of the younger kids today, you know, they think, you just go do the USA's. We didn't have that option.
No.
You had to win the overall or nationals.
Now, remember, so what's funny is like it took you 16 years. It took me 16 years. We had different paths. And how old are you now?
I just turned 48.
Okay, so I'm 55.
Happy belated birthday. It was like 2 weeks ago, right?
Yeah, the 29th. Thank you.
Happy birthday. Yeah, so we're like 8 years apart. And by the time I got to turn pro in 2008, I blew my load. That was it, right? And I had a horrible pro career. The last show I was in.
Wait. You actually beat me in your first pro show.
Yes, I did, but I don't brag about that.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny when people say, they go, "Oh, you beat Jose." I go, "Yeah." They're like, "Why don't you tell people about that?" I'm like, it just happened. There was one thing, you know. I'm not gonna my career is not based on that I beat Jose Raymond.
Yeah.
But you know, I did well in my first pro show, and then I tried harder and harder because I'm a lunatic. So I'm looking at seventh, I think I got, or sixth, and a couple of guys ahead of us were actually in the Olympia from the year before.
Yeah.
But I didn't look at it that way. I looked at it as I just took seventh and I suck. So, but fast forward to 2013, my last show, worst shape, worst condition I was ever in, and you won it. And I remember standing on the side, watching your posing routine, watching you walk out, watching you do your posing routine. And Steve Weinberger, I don't know who he was talking to, but he said, that is a once in a lifetime condition. And he was so impressed by what you look like. And I was so happy for you. And it was like, you know, for me, like, I knew that was my last show. I was walking away from the sport at that time. But I was genuinely happy for you. I was happy for the direction you were going in. And I've always considered you, not that we've ever hung out, but a friend from the sport. a colleague,
Yeah.
a guy. I've picked your brain a few times throughout the years.
Of course.
And so I'm so honored to have you on today, and just the stories that I know that you're going to tell. So let me add, the one thing I want to ask you is that condition that you brought to the 2013 New York Pro. It was just crazy. Did you do anything different, or that was just a boom? It just happened.
It was a culmination of everything hitting its stride. Back in 2009, when we competed against each other, I was still natural at the New York Pro, and I hadn't decided to do anything. After that show, I was like, I just got smoked by all these guys. Like, if I'm going to waste time competing, then I just got to do it the right way. And it took me a couple of years to hit my stride, and to learn what I'm doing. And by 2013, I had packed on a solid 20, 30 pounds almost.
Wow.
Yeah, I think I weighed in at 211 at that show in 2013. I was on stage at like 208. And I was 183 at my very first show at the New York Pro in 2009.
Right.
So I had just grown, and it, when you put on new muscle, it doesn't look as hard.
Right.
So in 2009, 2010, it didn't look as good. In 2011, it looked a lot better. 2012, it started really hitting. By 2013, I was a full-blown man with condition. I knew exactly what I had to do. And I had zero stress. That year, I had decided not to do the New York Pro because I'd already done it 9, 10, 11, 12, 4 times. And I'm like, I'm not going to do the New York Pro. I was getting ready for Toronto, which was the following week. And it was Friday afternoon. I got a call from Steve. And he's like, hey, I was slated to guest pose for MHP. They had booked some guest appearance for me. And he goes, you're going to get fined. He's like, it's a non-sanctioned event. And I was like, oh, talk to MHP about that. I didn't book it. And he's like, well, I'm just letting you know, if you do it, you're going to get in trouble. And I'm like, all right, well, what do you want me to do? And he said, well, you can come down and do the New York Pro. And I was like, I'm like, that's tomorrow.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And he's like, well, are you in shape? I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, can you beat Sammy? Because Sammy Al-Haddad was coming into that show. I'm like, fuck yeah, I can beat him. He's like, well, get your ass down here. I'm like, all right, let me call you back. So I called Tito. I'm like, and that morning I'd sent Chris pictures, and he texted me back like, fucking crazy, wacky, nuts. You look nuts. And I'm like, all right. So I knew what he was going to say. I'm like, what do you think? Should we go down? And he's like, hell yeah. He's like, who the hell's going to beat you? And I'm like, all right,
yeah,
if you think so. So I went down. I had to go home, shave my chest, shave my body, pack food. I ordered like a bunch of food from my girl that was cooking for me, picked it up. I didn't leave until like 9 at night. I stopped at a friend's house in Connecticut. I slept for like 3 or 4 hours and then put a coat of tan on. I made it to the venue to weigh in. And the New York Pro back then, it wasn't like this multi-day thing. You got there, you weighed in. We were on stage within an hour or so.
Yeah.
So I weighed in and went backstage. I didn't even go back. I didn't have a hotel room. I just went backstage and hung out. And then before you know it, I went on stage. Nobody knew I was doing the show. When people ask me what was like your most exciting moment on stage, that was probably it, because New York is a crowd. It's a rowdy crowd. And nobody knew I was doing the show. And then when I came out from behind the curtain, the place erupted. And I was like, holy shit, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And I was in the shape of my life. And I was as big as I'd ever been. So it was like it was everything just worked that day. All the pieces came together, and I won the show pretty handily against one of the greatest competitors of all time. I mean, Samuel Haddad is like a 5-time world champion. He's incredible from Bahrain.
Yeah.
And, and I knew about him for years in the amateur ranks.
Right.
And I finally competed against him and beat him. And it was like, wow. And of course, that was the same day that Rami's debut. So Rami won the Open. I won the 212. We took a picture together in the overall, and I looked like Rami's leg. It was unbelievable. And here I am feeling big. I'm like, I'm pretty big here. And Rami was just crazy looking. It was nuts. It was.
But I remember standing next to you backstage, like it was nuts. I mean, you had vascularity like I've never seen before.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah, that's what I've been known for even since I was a kid. I was like 7 years old, like pumping my forearm, looking at the veins coming out of my arm. And my brother would tell me to show people. Yeah, he'd bring me around and show me off.
That's funny.
Show them your forearms. And I would do pull-ups for people, push-ups. So I was preparing as a child for that life. And I didn't even know it.
So let's fast forward just a little bit. Both of us have had our share of injuries. And now, did you have one hip replacement or two?
I only had my left hip replaced. I just wanted to get my life together before I did the other one. And now I need to do the other one. It's enough that I can't train adequately without a lot of pain,
Okay.
So it's
Are you able
that was what, 19, Jose? Was that like 2019?
Yeah, 2019. Yeah. It's been 4 years. It's great. I love it. My left, had I known, and if anyone who gets diagnosed with that issue, just get it done. It is the best recovery. Once you're done, like literally when you wake up from the surgery, they're like, all right, get up and walk. They get you up immediately and you hold on to a walker and they walk you up and down the hallway because your hip is something you can't afford for it to get stiff. So they immediately want it moving. And, within 3 months, I was squatting. Within 4 months, I was deadlifting 4 plates again.
Awesome.
It was great.
Wow.
It's not advised, but what my doctor said to me is, listen, this is a brand new hip. It's titanium. It is brand new. He's like, don't do anything crazy. Don't go for world records. But if you could squat 400 pounds before you did this, then you can squat 400 pounds. He's like, it's not going to break. And I just took that as, all right.
Green light.
Yeah. So I got myself back up to deadlifting 500 pounds. It's just like within the first year, it takes time for the implant to take to the bone. It's not going to come out or anything, but you could have some issues. So I was very careful, but I did push the envelope. I do have to get the right one done. Both of my shoulders are really bad now. Yep. Unfortunately, I would have come back, honestly. I'm like, that's how good my left hip feels. I'm like, if I could even pose, I can't even do a front double anymore because my arms won't crank back.
I understand. I have 14 anchors throughout both shoulders. And even though I'm competing now, I have to warm my shoulders up drastically to do a front double bicep. People don't understand.
What did you have done? What was the actual problem?
So the right shoulder, I tore the rotator cuff completely off. And fortunately, I went to a really great surgeon. I told him, I don't know what the future holds for me, but I want you to put me back together. Possibly I could compete one day and train. And he put 9 anchors in the shoulder. Wow. A year later, in 16, I was just picking up a 5-pound dumbbell off the rack just to like warm up a little bit, and it tore right off. And I had
a rotator as well?
Yep. He said it was a mirror image and a mirror injury. And so I had to have 5 anchors in my left shoulder. And it was like almost 3 years that I couldn't really train. I was exercising, I was working out, but training, and there's a difference.
Yeah.
But I couldn't do any presses that much or any pull downs for a long time. It took a long time.
Now?
What's that?
How about now?
I could do everything now.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you do all like hammer strength machine presses, or can you do actual dumbbell presses?
So I could do everything, but anything like a press, if I'm going to do it, it's usually at the end of the workout.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to like mess up anything.
Right.
Be warmed up.
Use a Smith machine or machine.
The only shoulder press that I have a difficult time with is the hammer strength, because it's back.
Yeah.
And it's just really uncomfortable. Yeah. And if I'm going to do it, it's probably the only thing I could put on is a 45. That's what I could work my way up to.
Right.
And if I do a barbell press, I could actually push it against the power rack.
Yeah.
Slide the bar up.
Yeah.
Sometimes on a good day, I could do freestanding barbell presses. Can't do behind the neck. That's impossible.
Oh, hell no. I never could do that. I could do that as like a young kid, like early 20s. I used to do push presses behind the neck.
Oh, no.
Like hold it on my traps and squat down and push them up. But those days are long gone. Yeah. I'm going to need some work done to my shoulders. My doctor said I need them both replaced because they're bone on bone.
Oh, wow.
Jeez.
Yeah. But I don't, it's a lot of pain. Like enough that my workouts suck. It's all just little pumping stuff to try to keep a pump. But I don't know that technology has really come that much further with shoulder replacements. I know hips are awesome. Even knees have come a long way, but the shoulder is so intricate that you'll never be the same.
Yeah. I have a friend who had partial shoulder replacement, and he's not the same, but his surgery was about 15 years ago. So it's had to have improved, in the last 15, 20 years. I don't know anybody who's had a shoulder replacement and train like we do.
Yeah. Troy Moore, right?
Yeah. Troy.
Yeah, he had his shoulders done, but he did the half with a partial replacement. And that is if you have torn rotators, you have to have the half. If your shoulder's intact, if everything's intact, but you need the full replacement, you can get the full replacement, which supposedly allows for full range of motion, where if you get the half, you're kind of stuck here. So I want to get it done before I am limited to my options.
Sure. Yeah, because I think the older we get, the more stiff we get as we age a little bit. And then the surgeries on top of that, with the scar tissue, and, it's a bitch every day when I go into the gym. I'm like, I'll go in and like just lay on a bench and do these like circles. And I think people look at me like, what the hell is he doing? But now, especially now, I'm sure in Boston, right? Like how cold it is. I know when it's going to rain now.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Sucks.
Yeah. You got to do what you got to do to get it done.
Yeah. I'm fortunate that I'm almost 56 years old, and I'm loving what I'm doing and inspired by the path you led and other guys that are, Sean Clarita is on fire right now, winning again. Unbelievable. Yeah. He looked amazing. And now he's going into Arnold.
I just did a podcast yesterday predicting the Arnold, and I'm predicting Sean to win.
With that lineup, yeah, I don't see how he's going to have a difficult time.
So, Jose, I actually watched that this morning. I actually watched that this morning, and it was a good podcast. So, question for you, since you were in the Arnold, okay, is it really, did they tap you on the shoulder? Like, did they tap the competitors on the shoulder, like to enter, or do you guys actually apply and say, look, I want to do it?
I believe it's you apply, and then they pick from the people that apply. Each year I put my name in, put the application in, and I was chosen to do it. I did it 5 years in a row. They only had it 5 years for the 212.
Right.
So I did it every year. And
today I received an email from the IFBB that if you're putting your name in the hat for an invitational contest, such as the Arnold and any other invitation contest, and you choose to back out, you got to have a good reason. You're going to have a doctor's permit, since Blessing and Griffin had just backed out at the last minute now.
It's my understanding that it was always that way, but who's to say? I don't know what these guys' health, issues are or aren't. I'm just disappointed. Yeah, I'm disappointed that these guys don't compete as much. I averaged 5 shows a year. So I competed, and I just told you I did the Arnold 5 years. So that means I did the Arnold in March and the Olympia in September, 5 years in a row.
And that's like a 13-week gap, right?
It's a decent gap. April, May, June, July, August, like 6 months.
From the Olympia to the Arnold, it's closer.
Yeah, it's a short one. Yeah, it would give me about 6 to 8 weeks to really just chill out, because I would compete after the Olympia too. I would fly straight from Vegas. I'd fly home and then fly to Korea. I did Korea 5 years in a row. And then we'd come home from Korea and fly to Prague. And then I'd come home and fly to Phoenix. So it was a busy year. But, obviously I'm being a 212 guy. I'm a lot smaller than Rami or, these big guys. So maybe it is harder for them to peak for shows more often. But how do you know unless you do it?
Yeah, because
these guys
back in the 90s did it. They did the Grand Prix in Europe, like country to country to country for like 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
I don't understand the mindset today. I don't get it.
I don't either, especially when the money is what it is. If I were Nick Walker or Derek Lunsford, I would be on that list. That's money that you cannot turn up. It's life-changing money. $200,000 right there in a blink of an eye, because your career can end very quick. Very quick.
Yeah.
One wrong move in the gym, it's over. And I hate to say it, but it happens more than not. Those guys that compete for like a Dexter Jackson, that's a very rare thing. Most guys come out like a shooting star and burn off quick, because it's a hard thing to do for a long time. It's a hard thing mentally. It's a hard thing on your family. It's a hard thing on your wife or whoever's your partner. It's a hard thing on you physically, on your health. But I think there's a safe way to do things. And, I'm just disappointed that there's not more than 6 guys in this show. That doesn't.
Yeah, because even like 8th place, if it goes up to 8th place is still like 10 or 12 grand. And again, that's more than a lot of the regular shows.
Yeah, I don't know if they're giving money all the way to 8th, but top 5 certainly going to make some money.
Yeah,
sure.
Well, we don't know the reasons why these 2 guys backed out of the contest, but I hope that their health is intact and they're good.
Yeah,
if it's just a mental thing, then they gotta work on that. But I hope these guys are healthy, and I hope they are doing well. I have to say that first.
Oh, 100%. I love those guys. I competed with Derek for 17, 18, 2 years in a row. I'm a huge fan of Derek and Nick. I just think at that age, what would you give to be in that spot, Vinny? 27 years old.
I would be doing it. But I'm talking about Blessing and Griffin backing out. So I hope their health is good. That's
yeah.
But if I were Nick Walker, I mean, I know the answer. I wouldn't, if I was that kind of, I didn't have the career that I wish I had as an amateur, my early days as a pro. And I'm fortunate that I can do well in the Masters now. But yeah, if I was 27 years old on a pro stage, there's no question that I would be not compete. I would be competing probably in 5 or 6 shows every year.
Yeah, me too. I think I did every show that a promoter asked me to. Any show, anytime a promoter was like, "Hey, I'm having this show, we'll fly you out." I'm like, "All right, I'll be there." I agreed to anything. Yeah. And I had so much fun doing it. It's so short. I was blessed to have 10 years as a pro, traveling the world, competing everywhere, and guest posing, and it just went in a blink of an eye like that. I feel like I just started it yesterday, and it's over today. It's crazy how quick that 10 years went, and I'm already 4 years retired. That's crazier. How fast life goes. When you're a kid, you're in elementary school, junior high, high school, that seems like 100 years. And then after that, from 25 on, it's like, boom, gone. It just happens so fast.
It's funny because inside myself looking out, I still think I'm 25, but I know the world looks at me and they know I'm 55.
Yeah. I don't. Because I go in a gym and I used to do the most outrageous things in the gym training. I could bench 315 for 30 reps. I could squat 405 for 30 reps. I wouldn't go near 315 in any capacity. Never. Not I couldn't dream of it. I'm just too sore, too old. No need for it. But I loved it when I could do it. I felt like I could run through a wall.
Of course.
I'm just hanging on.
Jose, when you were growing up and getting into bodybuilding, being a shorter guy, were you looking more towards the smaller guys like the Danny Padillas, or were you kind of aspiring to be like, were you following the bigger guys like the Arnolds and everybody else, the bigger guys out there?
No. I liked the smaller, bubblier, aesthetic, like balanced physiques like Sean Ray, like my brother. Really, my brother was the ultimate goal for me. If I could look anything like him, I would be happy. That was the look I was looking for, because he was really round. He only weighed 175 pounds, but he was just round and had great skin. And, and I loved, once I met Chris Faldo in 1998, I love that guy. We've been close friends since then. And I'm like, that's what I want to be. He was so hard and etched and everything put together. Did he win the 93 lightweights when you won the middleweights?
That's the first time I met him. And I remember like it was yesterday.
Remember how good he looked?
He was unreal from Hawaii. And I remember him being backstage pumping up for like an hour. And I went over to him and I'm like, hey, dude, we don't go on for about an hour. He's like, I got to get a good pump.
He was like that. Yeah. He had good crazy arms, calves, unbelievable poser, and crazy splintered chest. So those were the physiques that I really, loved and wanted to emulate. And it just so happened that once I got to the point where I was a pro, my physique morphed into like a, I don't know what, like a more Lee Priest type, like a short freak. I was a mass monster of the 212 guys,
Well, you dedicated a long time to building muscle before you ever thought about, going a different direction. And so you had a foundation on you that a lot of guys today are too impatient. Like you were saying earlier about you didn't have the mindset of turning pro. You enjoyed bodybuilding. And correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know how the mindset was up by where you were, but down in Jersey, it was like, okay, you never even, talked about turning pro. You talked about winning the next contest. And we knew about the titles. And today people being like, yeah, I'm doing, like they'll say, I'm doing Pittsburgh. I'm like, okay, are you doing the North America? Are you doing the Masters Nationals? Which one are you doing? I don't know, the one in August. And they don't know the titles.
Yeah.
And I always thought, like, you know, we had this like unwritten rule. If you can't win the Suburban, you don't go to the Jersey. If you can't win the Jersey, you don't go to the Junior USA. If you don't win the Junior USA, you don't go to the USA, let alone the Nationals. And if you walked into Diamond Gym in Maplewood, New Jersey, and you bragged that you came in second at a small show, you'd probably be kicked out of the gym.
Yeah.
It's so different today. And we didn't care. We did care. We wanted to be an IFBB pro, but the level of respect that it took to become a pro, you know, it was almost like we would insult pros if we bragged about going into a show to turn pro. And so, like, I listen to guys in the gym, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm going to go in the show. I'm going to turn pro." I'm like, "Oh my God, shut up!"
Yeah, I hear it all the time. You know, and what's funny is that back in that time, we'd show up at nationals. There'd be 40 guys in our class.
Yep,
40 guys.
It was 50
in the top 5. Yeah, you knew every name in that top 5. Because they've been plugging away year after year after year. So we'd show up at nationals, and you knew everyone. You knew all the guys, all the faces that have been around forever, trying and improving. Where today, it's getting watered down because the top 2 guys turn pro. And each year is a new crop of guys, and they haven't been putting in the time. That's why this younger up-and-coming generation sees it so easy, because to them it's easy. So-and-so went and he placed second and got a pro card. You know, the word pro card is just thrown around everywhere, that it seems easy. You know, but what good is it if you win a pro card and you can't be competitive as a pro? You're only using it as a handle, as an Instagram name. You know, IFBB pro this, DM me for coaching. It's crazy. You know, there's a lot of people that do one show and turn pro.
I have 2 athletes of mine that one placed second in the team, the universe, got his pro card, and one placed second in the nationals, got his pro card. And we've been having talks lately about, well, would you consider going back to an amateur show, because they can't place in a pro show. And, you know, it's hard to swallow for them a little bit, but they're starting to see the light. Like, if I train for a contest, I'm not even cracking the top 10 or 15. And they're 2 guys, and they're considering going back, you know, on a regional level, national level. And I said, you know, listen, just write them a letter and tell them you never won any prize money. You haven't placed. I don't think it's going to be an issue.
Yeah.
So, well, one of the things that Vinny and I were talking about. Go ahead, Jose. Sorry.
Well, I was going to quickly say is the difference in cost for the pro card and the NPC card is significant, I think.
I think it's $100. I don't know. I'm not quite sure.
It's $100 difference. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Yeah. So Vin and I were talking about this earlier, that people like yourself back in the day, you guys would stay natural for years to build that foundation. You mentioned that earlier. And it might be 5, 8, 10 years before you start using some additional gas and whatnot. But nowadays, the kids are spending a year in the gym and already turning to the juice and everything else. Like, nobody's putting their time in to build that foundation.
Yeah, it's sad to see. You know, but us having these conversations is exactly what needs to happen, so that people can hear it and know that, you know, I didn't do a damn thing till I was 34 years old. That's a long time to wait. And it wasn't, again, just like I didn't ever think about getting a pro card, I didn't think about like, oh, I'm going to end up doing juice someday. I thought I just wanted to be the best natural bodybuilder in the world. That was my goal. And, you know, me and my brother were a team together that wanted to take on the world and prove that it could be done. And, I think I proved it. I won 8 national titles natural. And it just became a time when I was an adult, 34 years old. I was informed. I did all the investigating and educating that I could. And I mastered the art of training. I mastered the nutrition aspect. The only missing piece was the supplements. So that's why I blew up. I mean, Vinny, when I competed against you in the New York Pro, I was 183. And that was May, the end of May or something. All right. 3 months later, it was like September 10th, I did the Atlantic City Pro.
Okay.
So it was 3 months later. I went from 183 to 202.
Great.
Wow.
Stage weight. And I was way harder, way leaner, way rounder. I placed second, a controversial second to Flex Lewis.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then we both went to the Olympia, and he placed 5th. I placed 6th. That was, and so I went from 8th place in New York to first call out at the Olympia.
Nice.
All in a matter of 4 months. It was
what's funny is a younger guy today will listen to what you're saying, but skip the part that you took 20 years to build a foundation. In 4 months, I did the same thing, Jose. I was 26 when I went to the USA in 93. And in 92, I didn't even think about saying I was drug free. I won the jersey and the junior USA clean. I didn't take anything. And I find it, I didn't even think of saying, I was drug free. Right. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, well, you were known for your structure. That's how you beat everyone. Was you had crazy wide shoulders and a tiny, tiny waist, and you just stood out. As soon as you matured into a man, your physique stood out to everyone. You had the Greek statue type of physique, and it took you a long time to add to that. Because your structure is bigger than most people in the 212. Like most people don't have. Derek Lunsford has shoulders like you, like the wide clavicles. But
I was never able to put that kind of muscle on.
Right. We all have certain genetics.
Yeah. I can tell you a crazy story, and I'll share it. And this is just like we were saying, like stories like this need to be told so younger generation can hear it, right? So I remember speaking to a top pro. This was back in 95. I was doing a photo shoot, and we were talking about, coming off. And he's like, come off? What do you mean come off? Stay on all year. I'm like, really? What are you talking about? I said, the last 2 shows, I just do it for the show. I said, I don't know anything about this. He goes, no, you got to stay on the whole year. He goes, if I were you, I would take off 1996, blast away for the whole year. So in 95, when I was 3 days out from the Nationals, I was 180 pounds, mint. And I should have stepped on stage as a light heavy. But everyone was like, you're a giant. You can look how big you're going to be as a middleweight. To lose 4 pounds on my frame, I looked emaciated. I got flat, and I took 5th as a middleweight. Yeah. So fast forward to 1997, and John Perillo calls me and says, hey, I want to do a photo shoot with you for the cover of Perillo magazine. And I'm getting in shape, and he says to me, are you going to stay out here and do the junior nationals next week? I'm like, didn't think about it. He's like, oh, why don't you stay? And I didn't even weigh myself until I got to the show. And I was 181 pounds. I gained 1 pound to jeopardize my health. And I thought, this doesn't work for me that way. No. I don't, my body doesn't respond that way. And I learned, but it was a good lesson. Thank God I walked away unscathed. I didn't get hurt. Nothing was bad. But, you know, there's guys out there who push that envelope, and unfortunately they have repercussions for it.
Yeah, I know tons of those guys. And here's the thing, and this is what I've learned. There's a certain level at which your body pushes back. Once your hormones are saturated and you have a certain level, putting more in isn't going to help. It's not going to make you bigger. And that's something people need to understand. It's like you just need to be stable, level, have stable levels, and that's it. You don't have to get up to, you know, there's people taking 3,000 milligrams of test in a week. That's out there. There are people doing that.
Now, is there anything that you did that when you decided to retire, that you were going to get your system back to normal and get healthy in a sense? Not that you were unhealthy, but just to get back to normalcy.
Yeah. So I was already older. I retired at 44 years old, and that's older. And by then, and I'd been used for 10 years, you know, on the juice. And I wanted to see if I could still produce any viable sperm to have a child. So I've been going to a fertility doctor, and I'm taking Clomid on a regular basis. And my numbers have gotten better, but nothing spectacular. So I'm going to go to the next level, which is going to be like HMG, HCG shots, and see what that does for me. And but when I retired, I just stopped. You know, I stopped, one, because I was having a major surgery, and two, I don't know who the hell likes pinning themselves like that all the time. So once my surgery, I recovered from that, I started just TRT. And that was essentially what I did from then until this past September, late September. And then I started this Clomid protocol. And I feel like dog shit. You know, I'm like soft and chubby. I don't have that oomph. I'm not, you know, I don't have the aggression. I'm just, but I'm okay with it. You know, I don't have to be huge. I don't have to be anything. You know, my days of being an animal are over. I want to be successful in business, and I want to have a healthy, long life and see if I can have some offspring. And that's my main goal right now, is to have a success with business and life. And you know, and eventually I'm working on getting back into better shape, but it's not the priority. It's mostly health markers that I want to be good right now.
Sure.
You know,
and what do you got going on business wise that's coming up with you?
So
Jose, did it take a while for you to?
What?
Go ahead, Sean.
I was going to say, did it take you a while to kind of accept retirement? You know, to say, okay, look, you know, it's a new lifestyle, new look, everything else, or do you kind of adapt pretty quickly?
That's a great question. It's a great question because, you know, you're a pro bodybuilder. You're on top of the world. You know, you're on covers of magazines. You're, you know, and then you're nothing. You know, it's like, in the way this industry changes, you know, when I retired, Chris Bumstead was nobody knew who he was. And within 4 years, he's surpassed Jay Cutler as the most popular bodybuilder on the planet. And, you know, that's how quick things happen. And, you know, so I went to the Arnold Classic last year, and I was working the Bolero booth. And, you know, there were a lot of young kids coming up and talking to Guy Sistanino, guys next to me. None of them knew who I was, you know. I'm like, oh, this is so funny. I'm like, but I can appreciate that. And a lot of it is my own fault because I don't do a ton of social media. I'm more from your generation, Vinny, where we didn't self-promote. We didn't, you know, that wasn't the thing. Where today it's like you got to tell everyone how cool you are. And
Right.
I was just never into that. So I've got a whole marketing campaign coming out now.
Nice.
I hired a company to help me with it, and because I've been doing a lot of coaching too, but I don't post about it. I don't advertise, and I mean I've turned a lot of people pro that people don't know about, and I've had people win pro shows and go to the Olympia that people don't know about. So I'm going to put a lot more time into that. And of course, like you, Vinny, I do the daily grind of training people, which I love, and I'll never stop doing that. It's like in my DNA. I love teaching people how to really train. You know, there's working out, there's going to the gym and working out, and there's training. And when people come with me, they train for an hour. And it's a whole different experience. And some people will never come back because it's too traumatic. And some people get addicted to it. And they're like, I never realized this is really what I needed to do to change my body. No wonder why my body wasn't changing. You know, I've had friends, people that I call close friends, they were working out for many years, had great physiques. And then when I got my hands on them for a year and a half, boom, they would blow up and turn into a pro, changing nothing. They were using supplements before that. They were eating right before that. The main ingredient was training the right way to stimulate growth. And I've had huge success with a lot of people just from that. And that's what I'm like most passionate about, is about the actual, you know, the kinesiology of how to move your body and how to do things the right way, the safest way, the smartest way, and teach people how to do it.
That's awesome.
And that's where my education is in. You know, I'm not just a guy who likes to work out, you know, and show people how to work out. No, I got the education in exercise science, and that's important to me because I see people all the time. Everyone's a trainer. There's a million trainers. How many of them actually have a degree in exercise science and took it that seriously? I knew at the age of 18 when I competed in my first bodybuilding show, and I knew that moment when I won the overall at the New Englands, and that's when shows were packed. There was no bikini, there was no figure, there was just men's and women's bodybuilding, and the house was packed. And I got a rush, like, I know what I want to do now. So when I went off to school, I didn't waste time with, you know, general studies or anything. I went right in to exercise science and kinesiology and anatomy and physiology and learning all the things I needed to learn about the human body to get better at what I'm doing.
What college did you go to?
I went to Plymouth State in New Hampshire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Man, it's we can keep going and just keep going, talking about stories with you. I want to thank you for coming on tonight. And
of course,
you know, Sean and I, we've been talking for a long time about putting this podcast together. That's anybody over 40 in the fitness field, and I hope the younger generation can learn from what you were saying tonight. And I hope the Masters guys who are competing can take a little bit from you and, you know, move forward. And you know, now we got the Masters Olympia coming up in August, and I put my name in the hat, so we'll see. You know, it's exciting. Yeah.
I'm excited to watch your progress.
Thank you.
That's going to be great. There's going to be
some
when
I
good
first
names.
Started. What's that?
I said there'll be some good names in there, I'm sure.
Oh yeah. My hands will be full, but I'm hoping that I'm going to be a pain in the ass to all these guys.
Yeah, you will.
So Jose, I'm a big. Sorry, I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of yours, and I never knew how much you competed. And I'll send you this website called Muscle Memory. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's basically a stats of every competitive bodybuilder. And I know Milos is always talking about how he's competed 60 shows, 70 shows. But over 9 years, when you went pro, I just counted 40 shows between 09 to 18 for you. That's crazy.
Yeah, and they don't have all of them. They don't.
I'm
they
sure
don't
there's
have
one,
all.
but still, though.
Yeah. I think it's more like 46. Yeah,
That's crazy.
Interesting.
I did it. That's why I said I did at least 5, sometimes 6 shows in a year. One year, there was only 1 year where I only did two shows. 2011, I did the New York Pro in the Olympia, and the rest of the years I did 5 or more. And yeah, it was great. It was I loved competing. That's why I brought it up. Like, I don't understand why more people aren't trying to get into the Arnold Classic. You know, that's just an opportunity for you to display your artistry, your work, and make some money. That's a big chunk of change. So,
A lot of money.
yeah.
What do you think your best year is? Go ahead, Jose. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I said, if I could give you any advice with this podcast, just keep pumping it out. I had some really good views. I had some really good interviews and lots of hits. And then I just fell off with it. And the algorithm loses. You lose the rhythm. Just keep pumping them out. And it'll grow and it'll grow and it'll grow and it'll be successful.
Yeah, next week we have Rusty Jeffers on.
Awesome. That should be interesting.
Yeah, and then the week after that we have what's that?
It's his best mustache in the world.
Yeah, and then we got Bill Grant after that. So it's gonna be pretty cool.
All, these are all masters. All Rusty's a hell of a master, right?
Yeah, I stepped on stage with him at the Legion, Masters Legion last year. He beat me. I took second. It was a good depth. He's a good competitor. It was kind of crazy standing on stage with him because I used to see him in the Ironman and the magazines and like, who is this dude? And he turned out to be a great guy. We got along pretty well. I like him a lot. Good guy.
How old is Bill Grant now? Is he in his 80s?
74.
74 years old.
74. He still looks tremendous.
He does. He looks great.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great.
So thank you again, Jose.
Before we get off, there's a gentleman that commented here. You guys don't see it, but JJ Toronto, I don't know if those initials mean anything. He said, "Hey, Vin, you and Jose are two humble champions. Great podcast."
Thank you, JJ.
Thank you. That's awesome. Before we log off, I want to promote a couple of things. One is my podcast, The Boston Mass. My website is going to be back up probably by next week, thebostonmass.com. And also, if you guys haven't already seen it, Senapani Circles. Have you seen that? It's on Telegram.
I have.
It's unbelievable. You get an inside look into all these pros' lives and everyday lives. It's not just gym stuff. It's cooking. It's mowing the lawn. It's food shopping, whatever. And you have firsthand access. It's free. You just download Telegram and you get to communicate. You can write in questions. You can ask anything you want. It's Jay Cutler, Flex Lewis, Evan Senapani, myself, Lee Priest, Guy Sistanino, Juji Mufu, Antoine Valiant, Frank McGrath, Chris Tuttle, James Hollingshead. There's 11 of us on there, and it's wild. It's a good time.
Cool.
So and it's all over Instagram too. So if you need to find the link,
I'll look for it.
What's that?
I've seen some of your Las Vegas debauchery with Lee and Chris Tuttle.
Exactly. Yes. All right, you've been on there then. Oh, it's awesome. It's so entertaining. Yeah.
So I don't want to wrap up here, but Jose, when are you shaving your head? Because I know you keep avoiding on Fuad's podcast. When are you shaving your head?
Well, it's looking too good, man. I got to, dude. I have no hair. This is all I got. I gotta hang on to that for dear life. And I might go over to Turkey and get it filled in. And
like Greg Doucette.
Yeah, he did something similar, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, anybody
I don't
plug?
get like.
No, I'm good tonight.
Hair? No.
Just want to plug myself.
Yeah. Yeah, get it up. Once it's up, I'll share the video. I'll share the link with everyone. I really appreciate you having me on, Vinny, and it's great talking to you, catching up.
Oh, you're welcome.
Keep me posted on all your progress.
I will.
Love to watch the journey.
When we go off the air, I want to ask you a question.
All right, cool.
Yeah. And as you wind down, I want to give one quick plug to a mutual friend of Vinny and I, Eric Schwartz. He just started a new podcast himself, Gym Guys Podcast. 3 guys from Universal, chatting industry, chatting weightlift, and everything else. But as always, Vin, Jose, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Jose.
Thanks, Sean. Thank you.